Hey guys, tonight we drift to twilight-lit convent corridors, where ancient culinary secrets and mysterious aromas invite you to wander with us into the forgotten kitchens of French medieval convents. Hey, you might feel a thrill as the cool night air brushes against your skin, carrying whispers of centuries-old rituals and delicate spices that once danced in these hidden halls. You probably won't survive this journey unscathed, as each step teeters on the brink of rediscovered mystery and forgotten lore. So, before you step deeper, first of all, welcome to Katha, the channel where history's whispers become your lullabies. This is the first video in this channel. If you spot any mistakes or if you have any suggestions at all, please drop them in the comments below. I would love to receive your feedback, and I'll make sure to improve in future videos. And I upload a new video every single day. Like the video and subscribe to our channel, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments where you're tuning in from. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights. Maybe switch on a fan for that soft, soothing hum. Settle in, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step forward cautiously along uneven stone corridors, as the ambient glow of long-extinguished candles seems to ignite memories within the aged walls. Each footfall makes you part of an unfolding secret, a living narrative, etched in faded frescoes and whispered in the low murmur of distant monastic chants. The cool, rough stones beneath your feet resonate with history, reminding you of a time when every moment was cloaked in the mystery of creation, and every dish prepared was an act of devotion. Medieval convents in France, especially during the formative centuries before the Renaissance, weren't just spiritual refuges. They evolved as centers for culinary art where rules were as sacred as the prayers whispered in hushed tones. A subtle interplay of cool tones and warm candlelight paints the carvings and tapestries with a luminescence that feels almost otherworldly. The corridor, with its time-worn arches and secret alcoves, ushers you into a realm where ingredients were more than mere sustenance. They were a language of art, a coded message from the divine. As you walk, the aromatic traces of rosemary, thyme, and a whisper of lavender tease your senses, evoking an intricate story spun from the union of nature and nurtured faith. A slight breeze carries the faint echo of laughter, perhaps a nod to the rebellious spirit of those who dared add an unexpected touch to their sacred recipes. The sounds around you are punctuated by the occasional clink of ancient pottery and the rustle of dried herbs, summoning memories of long-past culinary feats and quiet innovations. You can almost envision the devoted hands that measured, stirred, and simmered potent concoctions within these hallowed walls. In a playful twist as unexpected as finding your favorite snack in a monastery pantry, you recall that even within the most disciplined surroundings, there was room for a spark of irreverence, a gentle reminder that joy often tiptoes between the solemn and the surprising. There's a subtle irony in how something as routine as a simmering cauldron became a crucible for both piety and playful experimentation. Every step feels deliberate, and with each measured pace, you become increasingly aware of the living history beneath your feet, echoes of meticulous culinary preparations that were anything but mundane. On one carved stone, you almost read a faded notation hinting at a secret ingredient, a rare spice imported from distant lands, said to have been added as a tribute to a mysterious benefactor. Historians still argue whether this lavish inclusion was merely an extravagant flourish or the elegant punctuation in a recipe that transcended the everyday. This blend of discernible fact and whimsical myth adds a layer of delicious ambiguity to your journey. As you continue, the sensory tapestry unfurls before you. The coolness of the ancient walls opposes the subtle heat of a long-ago hearth, where melodious clinks and smouldering embers played the role of background music in a kitchen imbued with both zeal and reverence. A few light chuckles arise within you, reminiscent of a modern-day inside joke shared among friends when the unexpected happens, like discovering a hidden stash of chocolate in an otherwise savory pantry. Yes, even in these moments steeped in historical weight, there is room for laughter, a gentle nod to the absurdity of a nun carefully weighing a pinch of spice while whispering a cheeky remark to her comrade. The corridor seems to whisper encouragement, coaxing you to remember that every ancient recipe was born of necessity, innovation, and, on occasion, rebellious humor. In that delicate interplay of light and shadow, you sense that you are treading on hallowed ground, one where the art of cooking was not just a mundane chore but a transcendental act. The muted scent of burned wood, mingling with the faint aroma of simmering stews, creates an atmosphere that bridges the present and the past, inviting you to savor the moment as if it were your own cherished secret. With each step, the narrative grows richer, the echoes of fervent prayer combine with the soft whisper of culinary creativity, crafting an ambient lullaby that both soothes and enlivens. You feel that every relic, every whispered legend, adds texture to a forgotten era, a time when every meal carried a message, each recipe was a testament to resilience, and even a lick of daring could tip the scale between ritual and rebellion. And as you embrace these evocative whispers, you realize that you are not merely a visitor peering into the past, but an active participant in a living dialogue between the sacred and the profane. In this enchanted beginning, your journey merges historical truth with playful mystery, encouraging you not just to look, but to feel the legacy of these medieval kitchens. The soft interplay of history, tactile ambiance, and subtle, mischievous humor creates a mesmerizing gateway into a world where every spice tells a story, and every flicker of candlelight echoes a forgotten prayer. This unfolding narrative, punctuated by moments of light-hearted irony and profound reverence, is your invitation to step into a forgotten realm where culinary art transcends time, a realm as enigmatic as it is inviting, setting the stage for the culinary mysteries that lay ahead. You descend into the cooler, shadowed depths of ancient cellars, where the very air is redolent with secrets of lost flavor and whispered legends of herbs and mystic spices. The passage narrows here, and you find yourself surrounded by shelves laden with earthen jars, brittle scrolls detailing recipes, and an assortment of ingredients that seem to pulse with life from a bygone era. In these dim recesses, the ingredients are more than mere foodstuffs. They are living memories from times when the interplay between heaven and earth was measured in pinches and drops. As you move deeper, the gentle murmur of your own footsteps blends with the delicate rustle of dried leaves and the subtle clinks of glass jars. Every scent strikes you with a story. There's the unmistakable earthy aroma of wild thyme, woven with the smoky undercurrent of dried bay leaves, and even a hint of a foreign spice, perhaps a whisper of saffron brought along ancient trade routes, which carries both luxury and mystery. This moment is rich with the understanding that medieval convents, despite their austere exteriors, cherished these secret ingredients that brought both healing and pleasure to their everyday meals. A mainstream historical fact echoes in your mind. Many French medieval convents maintained extensive herb gardens to sustain both culinary and medicinal traditions. The jars before you reveal more than just practical use. They speak of clandestine experiments in flavor. You're drawn to a small, unassuming vial filled with a pungent, almost otherworldly tincture. Its label, faded and nearly illegible, hints at a recipe used in vows of both penance and celebration. A curious blend said to transform a simple stew into a potion of both sustenance and, perhaps, a slight buzz of mirth. The idea that a culinary concoction might double as a mood enhancer amuses you. It's as if the nuns had a secret wink at the rigid solemnity of their lives. You smile as you recall a quirky tidbit from your research. There's an account of a particularly daring abbess who reputedly combined local honey with rare spices to create a concoction that, rumor has it, might even loosen the strictest of religious tongues at communal dinners. You reach out to gently trace your finger over a jar marked with symbols resembling a blend of alchemical notation and medieval shorthand. The texture of the jar's surface, a rough, almost tactile parchment, seems to remind you that every ingredient here was carefully noted, valued, and hidden away from prying eyes. This tactile familiarity deepens your sense of connection to these long-forgotten artisans of flavor. The room is awash with narratives of passion and subtle rebellion. Here, every herb carries a dual identity as both a medicinal remedy and a secret spice of life. As you inhale deeply, the aroma of basil mingles with that of unseen, perhaps even lost, condiments that once stirred the hearts of those who dared venture beyond traditional boundaries. You notice an unusual jar tucked away in the darkest corner. Its contents emit a tangy, slightly fermented scent, an ingredient that modern scholars might have deemed too bold for the structured regimen of convent cuisine. Yet, here it sits, a testament to experimental audacity. Historians still argue whether such unconventional condiments were the result of sheer necessity or a deliberate act of culinary rebellion against the prescribed austerity of monastic life. The skepticism in their voices is softened by the undeniable allure of creativity thriving in forbidden places. With a modest chuckle, you consider that even in the most stringent environments, a spark of culinary innovation emerged, sometimes as unexpected as finding a smattering of whimsical notes scribbled in the margins of an ancient recipe book. Your journey through this aromatic labyrinth continues with every careful step. The cool, damp walls seem to lean in, sharing hushed anecdotes of secret gatherings and midnight experiments where ingredients were swapped, bartered, and blessed. Each bottle and bundle of herbs appears to vibrate with latent energy. Here, the subtle tang of sumac is interwoven with the delicate floral notes of dried lavender, the latter a nod to a more refined palate, perhaps meant to soothe the spirit after a harsh day of grim austerity. You almost hear a soft giggle echoing from the shadows as you imagine an inventive nun, armed with nothing but a whisk and a rebellious idea, laughing quietly at the absurdity of stifled expectations. In this cool and enigmatic cellar, the passage of time seems to slow. The interplay between light and shadow provides a natural stage where history's forgotten ingredients come to life. Amid this serene chaos, you discover a row of small copper pots that once held meticulously recorded mixtures, each one a delicate blend of locally gathered herbs, imported spices, and sometimes even bizarre, experimental components. One such pot contains a perfectly preserved concoction of egg yolk and a pinch of mustard seed, intended as a precursor to what might have been an early attempt at creating a creamy sauce. The mixing of such unlikely pairs appears both daring and progressive, a culinary gamble that defied the mundane boundaries of strict religious regimen. Your fingers brush over a particularly curious jar that appears to hold something akin to a concentrated herbal bitter. This ingredient, valued for its restorative qualities, might have been used to treat ailments as varied as melancholia and seasonal chills. The bitter scent almost makes you wince, yet it also hints at a transformation process where monotony was continually challenged with bursts of complexity. You pause, letting the layered smells swirl around you, feeling that each aroma not only tells its own tale, but also contributes to a grander, interconnected narrative of survival, adaptation, and subtle indulgence. In these cellars, every item whispers a history of change, each spice a note in a long-forgotten culinary symphony, where the simple act of flavoring food was elevated to an art form. As you explore further, the cellar reveals itself as both a sanctuary and a repository of culinary dreams. Your senses are heightened by the delicate interplay of textures, from the dry, almost brittle appearance of some herbs to the soft, earthy richness of preserved roots and tubers. You marvel at the intricate balance required. Blend these ingredients, a balance that resonated with the cautious yet innovative spirit of medieval convents. Subtle, playful banter seems to be embedded in the strategies of preparation, almost as if the ingredients themselves conspired to defy expectation and coax smiles from those daring enough to recreate their magic. There's an undeniable rhythm in this secret space, a rhythm punctuated by the quiet, methodical sorting of ingredients and the occasional, almost imperceptible drip of condensation from the stone ceiling. The cadence of your steps, as gentle as a heartbeat, mirrors the disciplined yet creative approach that once governed these halls. Even amidst the weight of historical expectations, there is room for levity. You recall a light-hearted joke from centuries past, perhaps shared in hushed tones during a particularly challenging season of famine, where a monk quipped that even the simplest herb was a miracle, if only it could provide a hearty laugh along with a decent meal. In this room of hidden aromas and secret recipes, you become both an observer and a participant in an ancient culinary ritual. The interplay of herb and spice, tradition and innovation, invites you to consider that, while boundaries were strictly observed, the human spirit always found a way to inject a dash of humor, a sprinkle of rebellion, and a whole lot of heart into the fabric of daily life. Every sensory detail, from the subtle fragrance of rosemary to the unexpected sharpness of fermented mustard seeds, cements your connection to a world where the mundane was transformed into a sacred act of creation. The cellar, with its labyrinthine shelves and whispered secrets, stands as a silent witness to the creativity and resilience of those who dared to challenge the ordinary. Amid the interplay of light, shadow, and the constant murmur of history, you realize that these secret ingredients are as much about nourishment and survival as they are about the delicate balance of innovation, a balance that continues to captivate the present mind with echoes of a past defined by both structure and delightful unpredictability. You now step into an expansive, dimly lit kitchen where every detail is a calculated measure of devotion and culinary mastery. You witness sacred preparations unfolding as you watch the nuns, or rather, the expert culinary artisans of medieval conclave, moving with deliberate grace. Here, in this sanctified space, every ingredient is measured with almost divine precision. In front of you, two long wooden tables stand in symmetry, each arrayed with bronze, stone, and earthenware tools that look as though they were designed to echo the solemnity of liturgical rituals. The room vibrates with the sound of chopping, stirring, and quiet murmurs that mix seamlessly with the rhythmic clinking of utensils. You observe a nun carefully weighing a handful of dried lavender against a set of intricately carved balance scales. Each measure is executed with a solemnity that borders on ceremony. Every motion is calibrated to perfection, reflecting centuries of inherited expertise and the reverence for both sustenance and spirituality. It is as if the very air in the kitchen holds the prayers and hopes of generations past, woven into the fabric of a ritual that prepares food as much for the soul as for the body. A mainstream historical fact resonates here. Medieval convent kitchens were essential hubs of both culinary and medicinal innovation, where recipes were considered acts of piety as much as expressions of gastronomic creativity. These skilled practitioners not only fed bodies but nurtured souls, often turning everyday food preparation into an art form imbued with spiritual symbolism. In this vast, shadowy kitchen, you sense that every measured pinch of salt, every carefully timed stir, and every deliberate pour of liquid was an offering to a higher power, as much as a way to create something nourishing and flavor-rich. It isn't just cooking, it's a ritual that binds the earthly to the divine. As you move closer, you observe a striking scene. A pair of artisans, one preparing a savory concoction and the other methodically tending to a simmering cauldron, seem to be engaged in a silent, graceful ballet of ingredients against mortared stone and flickering candlelight. You can see an almost theatrical performance in their precise movements, a choreography of spatulas, ladles, and mortar and pestle, where precision is both a discipline and a reflection of inner devotion. Even the slow, deliberate swirl of a sauce in a cast-iron pot carries an air of transcendent purpose. Imagine, if you will, the spectacle of ingredients dancing around on a sizzling canvas, as if auditioning for a role in a grand culinary opera. A quirky, fringe tidbit surfaces in your mind. There was once a legend about a particularly innovative kitchen where a mischievous cook secretly swapped regular water with a mild spring infusion that had the effect of bubbling with laughter. The story goes that at a feast, every guest couldn't help but burst into spontaneous giggles, a moment so bizarre yet so unforgettable that it was whispered about for generations. This anecdote, with its absurdity and charm, reminds you that even in the most disciplined arenas, a little mischief was never too far away. You smirk inwardly, thinking that even if precise measurements rule the day, sometimes a spoonful of unexpected fun, if only to lighten a heavy mood, was the secret ingredient everyone enjoyed. You feel the enchanted atmosphere deepen as you witness another meticulous act of food preparation, the blending of herbs into a paste that seems to turn indistinguishable ingredients into a shimmering, velvety concoction. The artisan's firm grip on the pestle, the slow, rhythmic circular motion that perfectly crushes basil, rosemary, and thyme together, is executed with the care one might reserve for reciting a sacred liturgy. Each herb, a messenger of tradition and nature's bounty, is ground so finely that even the air seems charged with the aroma of the ancient earth. With each careful rotation, you almost sense a whisper, the language of herbs speaking in quiet tongues of lore that echo the legacy of afternoons spent tending monastery gardens. In this place, even the simplest act of seasoning is elevated to an act of divine creativity. A nun across the room adds a measured dash of wild mustard seed, its pungency released gradually into the simmering broth. The crisp sound of seeds hitting the mortar harmonizes with the soft clattering of utensils, crafting a symphony of sound that is as much a part of the meal as the spices themselves. As you watch, you recall the playful irony of life. Here is a sacred ritual where one might decide between a pinch too much or too little, and yet the consequences are as weighty as a priest's sermon. If there were a medal for the most delicate balancing act, you'd confidently wager that these culinary devotees might just take home the gold. Historians still argue whether the exact methods in these kitchens were primarily driven by religious austerity or by an instinctive, rebellious pursuit of perfection and flavor, an ongoing debate that adds an additional layer of complexity to your appreciation of the scene. You are left with the impression that in every careful measure there is not only a reflection of past traditions, but also an echo of an innovative spirit that dared to challenge convention. Within the meticulous method lies the pulse of centuries, a testament to disciplined artistry coupled with unbridled creativity. It is as if each carefully weighed spice was an instrument in a grand orchestra, where every note was essential in crafting a masterpiece that nourished the soul as much as the body. Beyond the overtly ritualistic nature of these preparations, there is an undercurrent of humor, a gentle nudge that reminds you not to take life too seriously. A quiet chuckle escapes you as you recall that one of the kitchen assistants, in an attempt to steady his hand, accidentally flung a pinch of flour into the air. In that brief moment, when the dust settled, his startled expression and the ensuing burst of laughter created a moment of levity that diffused the solemn atmosphere. It's a small reminder that even in the holiest of places, people are delightfully human, completely capable of light-hearted mishaps and unscripted comedy. The subtle, smiling jokes that pepper these experience-laden spaces serve to remind you that the art of cooking, like life, sometimes demands a gentle laugh amid the precision. Your senses are alive with the interplay of sound, smell, and delicate movements that define this sacred space. The clink of a stone mortar meeting its pestle, the rustle of parchment as a recipe is carefully unrolled before rewriting ancient instructions. All these harmonize into a quiet melody that is both meditative and invigorating. You are drawn in deeper by the ambience of subtle perfection, where every measured ingredient is both a testament to the craft and an invitation to taste a rich history condensed in a single, carefully prepared dish. The natural ambient, filled with soft, intermittent whispers of conversations and the underlying hum of monastic commitment, gently coaxes you closer to understanding that here, precision is not a mere technicality, it is a spiritual discipline. As you absorb the sensory overload of this sacred kitchen, you notice the interplay of candlelight on the rough surfaces of ceramic bowls and mortar bases, transforming mundane elements into shimmering relics of light and shadow. It is a subtle nod to the idea that even in the simplest of rituals lies deep beauty. The combination of the aroma of crushed herbs, the sight of measured ingredients, and the sound of quiet yet determined labor forms an intricate tapestry that lulls you into a state of interior calm, an invitation to pause and appreciate the beauty of human endeavor, meticulously captured in every act of culinary preparation. You feel as if the very act of watching has become a meditative journey into the splendor of disciplined art. In this timeless arena, you become part of an ongoing epic, one that honors the confluence of dedication, precision, and the lightest touch of humor. Every action, from a meticulous whisk to a seemingly trivial adjustment of a spice jar, is a reminder that good food is both a science and an art, one where each measured step sings the ballad of human creativity. It is in these sacred preparations that you recognize the intrinsic beauty of methodical labor, where precision is worshipped, innovation is cherished, and even a slight accidental splash of flour can become a cherished moment of communal laughter. You leave the bustling kitchen area with your mind buzzing with the lessons learned here, a clear understanding that every ingredient and every technique is a link in the chain of history, meticulously and lovingly passed down through the ages as a sacred culinary legacy. You wander from the bustling kitchen and soon find yourself drawn toward a heavy, worn door tucked in the corner of the convent, a secret portal into the divine pantry. As you push it open, a wave of cool, musty air and the faint aroma of aged parchment greets you. Inside, rows of tall, time-worn shelves stand like silent sentinels guarding a wealth of preserved relics, archaic cookbooks, and mysterious jars filled with treasures of forgotten culinary alchemy. The space, dimly lit by scattered shafts of light that filter through narrow, high-set windows, creates an ambiance of hushed reverence. Here, each shelf is a silent storyteller, and as you traverse the aisles, the very air hums with secrets of recipes that have streamlined the lore of a bygone culinary epoch. Your eyes adjust to the muted shadows, revealing a tapestry of colourful dried herbs, pickled fruits, and small earthen vessels that carry the legacy of medieval convent kitchens. The lingering scent of old leather and spiced mustiness evokes images of diligent scribes meticulously recording each ingredient, preserving not only flavours but entire philosophies of life and survival. Amid these relics, you notice an ornate, leather-bound tome that seems as fragile as a whispered prayer. Its gilded letters, barely perceptible beneath layers of dust, hint at a once-cherished cookbook, a personal ledger of recipes, honed over years of devoted experimentation. A mainstream historical fact resonates here. Many convents preserved culinary manuscripts to pass down secret recipes, believed to be as crucial as sacred texts in the daily life of the community. As you run your fingers gently along the spines of these ancient volumes, you marvel at the artisan calligraphy and delicate illuminations that grace the margins. The books are more than guides to preparation, they are portals into the minds and hearts of medieval culinary innovators. In one faded script, you glimpse annotations in the margins scribbled in hurried Latin that speak of ingredient substitutions and minor culinary adjustments made in secret, perhaps to appease a reluctant palate or to keep a spark of innovation alive. You smile at the playful nature of these notes, a subtle rebellion against the rigidity imposed by tradition. A quirky tidbit drifts into your mind. It was once recorded that a resourceful nun is said to have hidden a particularly experimental recipe by deliberately misplacing a page, knowing that only the most intrepid among her sisters would ever recover its secrets. The divine pantry is a labyrinth of organized disorder, where every shelf and every jar plays its own part in the grand culinary narrative. Each preserved item seems to have been chosen with a dual purpose, both as sustenance and as a symbol of the sacred art of nourishment. You notice several glass jars with their contents suspended in a timeless dance of fermentation. One jar shimmers with a deep, reddish hue, its contents rumoured to have been a rare fermented grape production used for both its flavour and its seemingly miraculous restorative powers. Nearby, another collection of smaller, unassuming vials contains powders and crushed herbs, each packet sealed with wax and stamped with mysterious insignias that hint at secret orders and internal codes known only to the initiated. Rows of aged spices line one wall, their hues ranging from vibrant saffron gold to deep, melancholic indigo, a visual feast that contrasts with the cool stone surroundings. The sensory feast is intensified as you uncover a small display case containing a collection of medieval condiment recipes. Here, each recipe is accompanied by detailed notes, some in frank, bold script and others in flowery, almost poetic language that speaks of divine inspiration and culinary artistry. Historians still argue whether these recipes were devised purely as functional sustenance for the body, or if they were also a form of silent protest, a way to infuse everyday meals with a hint of escapism and personal expression amid the constraints of monastic duty. The shelves seem to crest over you as you stroll along like a pilgrim in a hallowed hall. In the attic-like space, every shelf is a record of tradition, a mosaic of colours and textures that unite exacting order with the chaos of creative genius. You run your eyes along a particular section labeled with cryptic symbols. Here, the ingredients are arranged with an almost artistic precision, as if each jar were a note in an enduring symphony of flavors. The meticulous separation of dried fruits from preserved vegetables, root extracts from fermented elixirs, speaks not only to the aesthetic sensibilities of the record keepers, but also to their deep knowledge of the alchemy of taste and preservation. At one end, you discover a delicate, almost reverential display of small clay jars, filled with what appears to be a series of rare pickled items. Their brightly coloured contents promise a tang of sweetness, balanced by a whisper of bitterness, a combination that was revered in medieval culinary circles for its ability to denote both life's joy and its inevitable sorrows. The arrangement is careful, almost ceremonial, as if the jars themselves were relics of a sacred ritual. Each jar is accompanied by a tiny scroll bearing a handwritten note detailing its origin, usage, and an enigmatic recipe that challenges modern taste buds. You pause to admire the artistry of these recipes, where the methods of pickling and preservation were not mere survival tactics, but holistic expressions of faith, resourcefulness, and innovation. In a far corner of the divine pantry, nearly hidden behind a heavy oak cabinet, you spy a small alcove that houses a series of handwritten ledgers. These ledgers meticulously catalogue ingredients by season, region, and even by their purported spiritual potency, each entry a testament to a life devoted to the art of culinary excellence and deliberate creation. One ledger, in particular, captivates your attention with notes about ingredients believed to ward off ill fortune, a subtle nod to the old-world belief in the metaphysical properties of food. The text details strange pairings and peculiar combinations that hint at an understanding far beyond the mere act of nourishment, a synthesis of culinary science and mystical lore that still baffles modern experts. As you move deeper through the space, a symphony of sensory memories wraps around you. The ever-so-slight clink of glass against stone and the soft murmur of old parchment turning combine in a quiet, hypnotic cadence. This treasury of ancient culinary lore is both a repository of restricted knowledge and an open invitation to experiment, to remember, and to honor the ingenuity of those who reimagined food under constraints, neither of them entirely relinquished. An unseen current of pride and nostalgia sweeps through you as you digest the layered history emanating from every corner of the divine pantry, a living archive of experiments, triumphs, and the occasional mischievous error. Every intricate detail, from the ornate binding of ancient cookbooks to the well-worn leather labels on delicate jars, affirms that the care with which these items were preserved reflects not just the culinary techniques of the past, but also the deep-seated desire to immortalize art in every morsel. The space breathes a quiet confidence, as though it were concealing untold secrets that continue to inspire intimate moments of culinary introspection. In the stillness of the divine pantry, the interplay between shadow and light frames the timeless narrative of a culture that venerated food as a symbol of both mortality and transcendence, where every preserved recipe is a bridge, linking the essence of Mayan alchemy to the soul of French convent kitchens. Even as you linger among the relics, an undeniable thrill pulses through you, a sense of participation in a sacred ritual that marries history with culinary invention. This is not merely a room filled with old things, it is a vault of passion, a haven of memory, and a sanctuary where every preserved ingredient sings the ballad of a life lived at the crossroads of devotion and daring imagination. Here, amid these hushed corridors lined with ancient culinary wisdom, you feel the weight of centuries and the buoyant spark of innovation intertwining, leaving you with a profound appreciation of the sublime, secret language embedded in every recipe. You meander through a small herb garden adjacent to the main kitchen, where the very air shimmers with a secret promise of alchemy. The garden, tucked away behind weathered stone walls, bursts with the lush greens of rosemary, thyme, and sage intermingled with exotic blooms not once familiar to modern spice rack. You step closer, you inhale deeply. The aroma is a heady blend that is simultaneously earthy and tantalizing, a living memory of a time when every leaf, stem, and petal possessed a dual life as both sustenance and remedy. In this enchanted space, you witness the true art of herbal alchemy, when nature's bounty is transformed enchanted elixirs that imbued humble meals with divine qualities. You reach out and lightly brush your fingers across a leaf of mint, its crisp, cool texture sending gentle tingles down your arm. The garden seems to pulse with a quiet magic, as if every herb is waiting patiently to reveal its hidden lore. Mainstream historical facts remind you that French medieval convents were renowned for their mastery over botanical knowledge. These sacred women cultivated extensive herb gardens, not only to flavor their food but to harness nature's healing virtues. The tradition of herbal medicine was deeply ingrained in these cloisters, where remedies for ailments ranging from common colds to more mysterious malaises were often prepared from the carefully curated collection of plants right at hand. In a secluded corner of the garden, you discover an aged stone bench beneath a crooked oak. Resting on the bench, an ancient weathered grimoire of herbs awaits your curious gaze. Its pages are filled with recipes that mix culinary ingredients with medicinal potions, a delicate balance of nourishment and healing. You run your hand over faded ink, reading instructions that call for the precise use of juniper berries in a broth that was rumoured to bolster both spirit and body. Here, you appreciate that even beyond the culinary realm, the herbs served as a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical, where the act of cooking was inseparable from the art of healing. As your gaze drifts across the vibrant foliage, you notice a particularly unusual plant, a twisted vine with leaves speckled in iridescent hues, seemingly gleaming in the dappled sunlight that filters through the leafy canopy. A quirky bit of legend clings to this vine. A folkloric whisper among the nuns spoke of its use in a concoction that not only enhanced the flavour of a dish, but was also said to induce a fit of light. Uncontrollable giggles among those who partook. In a humorous twist that undercuts the conventional solemnity, you recall that one restless novice once secretively added a few leaves of this vine into the communal soup, sparking a ripple of laughter that echoed oddly across stone corridors. The mischievous nature of this herb offers a playful counterpoint to the otherwise serious pursuits of alchemy, a reminder that creativity often finds its home even in the most disciplined gardens. Walking among neat rows of meticulously planted herbs, you marvel at how each plant has been given a purpose beyond mere decoration. Every herb here is a subtle testament to an age when the natural world was as much a part of daily ritual as the lighting of a candle. As you lean in and inhale deeply, the distinct fragrance of lavender weaves through your senses. It is a scent that, in addition to its culinary use, was prized for its capability to soothe weary souls after long days of liturgical labour and culinary diligence. The lavender, with its purple plumes, seems to hum a quiet lullaby that tells stories of nights filled with whispered prayers and gentle experiments with recipes intended to ease both body and spirit. A mainstream historical fact rises in your mind. Many medieval manuscripts document the extensive use of herbs, not only as ingredients in everyday dishes, but also in remedies that could range from antiseptics to digestive aids. These texts, carefully handwritten by the Convent's scribes, detail the herbal lore with precision, revealing a fascinating interplay between culinary art and early scientific inquiry. In these texts, every herb carries a symbolic importance, and its careful selection and preparation are imbued with layers of meaning, each a note in the delicate symphony that was the convent kitchen. While you admire the organized chaos of this garden, your thoughts swiftly turn to the blending process itself. In a small, sunlit alcove, you watch a nun expertly crush fresh basil leaves alongside wild marjoram, using a sturdy wooden pestle. The mixture releases a fragrant cloud that dances in the air, a transient perfume that seems to momentarily suspend time. You observe her deliberate motions, the mix of practiced skill and an almost meditative focus. The mortar, worn smooth by decades or perhaps even centuries of use, becomes a crucible in which the magic of the herbs is unleashed. Her every movement is a deliberate incantation, fusing the natural elements into a potent paste that has the dual purpose of seasoning and healing. Historians still argue whether such practices in the convent were formed out of a strict medicinal need, or whether they blossomed from a deeper, esoteric understanding of nature, a debate that continues to intrigue and divide scholars even today. The air here carries a gentle rhythm, The scraping of the pestle against the mortar merges with the soft rustle of leaves in the afternoon breeze. As you listen, you register a series of quiet, almost imperceptible chuckles escaping from nearby conversation, a soft dissonance breaking the solemnity of the ritual. These delicate moments of levity, interspersed with the choreographed art of herbal alchemy, evoke a nostalgic smile. You remember a tale where a particularly innovative herbalist mixed a dash too much wild thyme into a remedy meant to treat a troubled heart, inadvertently creating an elixir that left everyone laughing rather than in distress. It's a delicious irony that even in serious moments, a spark of unexpected humor can transform the ritual. Your senses are fully engaged, mapping the landscape of the garden with a gentle curiosity. The interplay between the vibrant plants and the subtle sunlight creates a tableau that is both wild and meticulously curated. The essence of each herb, captured in the delicate notes that waft past you, seems to beckon you to explore further. The patchwork of scents, sharp basil, mellow rosemary, and the sweet whisper of chamomile reminds you that this is not merely an array of culinary ingredients, but a living archive of human ingenuity and natural bounty. In this garden, every touch, every inhalation is part of an alchemical process that transforms raw nature into celebrated art. The gentle caress of a leaf against your fingertips, the immediate burst of flavor and scent, serves as a quiet reminder that even the most ordinary elements of nature can unlock extraordinary results when handled with care. You sense that here, in the midst of nature's apothecary, there is a quiet rebellion against the mundane. The herbs, silently defiant, claim their right to be both flavor and remedy, to be the unsung heroes of a bygone era. Their transformation into sauces, broths, and infusions carries with it the echoes of ancient wisdom, a wisdom that has traveled through centuries, leaving behind a legacy of whispered secrets and exalted recipes. And so, as you step back to absorb the scene, you cannot help but smile at the intricate dance of shadow and light, nature and nurture that has culminated in this brilliant show of herbal alchemy. Each herb, every attempted fusion, is a declaration of life's perpetual creativity, a reminder that even in the strictest regimes, nature's impulse to flourish and bring delight is never entirely subdued. Here, the garden speaks to you in a gentle voice, coaxing you to savor the moment and ponder the quiet miracles that transform everyday ingredients into the sacred elixirs of the past. You now find yourself at the heart of a lavish medieval banquet, where the atmosphere swells with opulence and the clamor of vibrant conversation. As you step into the grand dining hall, gilded with the flicker of countless candles and adorned with intricate tapestries that tell tales of valor and divine grace, you feel the pulse of centuries converge in this room. The tables are set with the finest earthenware and silver, each piece a masterpiece carved and polished to perfection. You are invited to join in, as if the feast itself is calling out to your eager soul. Amid the resonant sounds of soft laughter and hushed reverence, you sense that every morsel on display is more than just food. It is a symphony of art, nourishment, and unspoken tradition, crafted with both love and precision. You seat yourself in a space where the rigid austerity of everyday convent life gives way to an explosion of decadent flavors and creative culinary expression. Platters piled high with roasted fowl glisten beneath the soft candlelight, their golden skin promising a delicate crunch that belies the slow, tender cooking underneath. Vessels of aromatic stews, richly spiced and simmered for hours, release enticing clouds of steam that mingle with the heady scent of freshly baked bread. In this realm, every dish is presented as an ensemble performance, a harmonious interplay of textures, colors, and aromas where the sacred meets the sumptuous. A mainstream historical fact illuminates your experience. Medieval banquets at French convents were not solely about indulgence, but served as communal celebrations that bridged mundane life with heavenly aspiration. Food became a conduit for expressing gratitude, for marking both religious and secular milestones with extraordinary culinary feats. The sumptuous spread before you is a testament to that dual purpose: nourishment for the body and delight for the spirit. As you gaze around, the intricate dance of serving and being served reveals a choreography that is both formal and joyously spontaneous. Silver trays and platters, borne by attentive hands, glide gracefully across long, ornate tables, each movement a silent ode to centuries of tradition. While you sample the feast, you notice an unexpected and quirky tidbit. Tucked away in a side dish is a delicately prepared surprise, a small, sugar-dusted almond that some say was once used as a secret laughing charm. According to local lore, a mischievous cook once spiked a dessert with this enchanted almond, sparking an outbreak of contagious giggles among the diners. The memory of this playful rebellion remains woven into the fabric of the banquet, a gentle reminder that even in a feast of divine indulgence, humor and humanity refuse to be sidelined. You can't help but smile as you recall that a single crunchy almond might have been responsible for turning an otherwise solemn gathering into a time of shared mirth, a light moment amid the sacred rituals. The hall itself is alive with the harmonious clash of utensils, animated conversation, and the soft murmur of poets reciting verses to honor the goodness of the harvest. Dazzling pots of vibrant fruits, tangy sauces, and aromatic sauces adorn the tables, each splash of color promising a flavor that is as bold as it is nuanced. As you pass your hand along the edge of a carved wooden bench, you can almost hear the echo of ancient instruments, a lute perhaps, or a gentle harp composing a melody that underlines the dance of flavors in front of you. Historians still argue whether these feasts were staged solely as religious expressions or also as secret celebrations of life's ephemeral beauty, adding an ever-present layer of mystery to the sumptuous repasts you witness. Around you, the guests alternately speak in reverent tones about the sanctity of their vows and laugh in the softer moments when a particularly clever joke or a clumsy stumble emerges. A server, dressed in a well-worn habit that hints at years of practiced elegance, deftly pours a fine, spiced wine into an intricately etched goblet. The liquid, a deep red that catches the light in a mesmerizing swirl, hints at the boldness of its ingredients, a secret blend of locally fermented grapes and a pinch of rare, enchanted spices. With each sip you take, there is a distinct quality that elevates your senses, teasing you to savor not just the drink, but the storied hands that perfected it over centuries. Every dish uncovers a chapter of heritage, a story of culinary daring blended with steadfast devotion. A platter of roasted vegetables, charred to perfection and drizzled with a fragrant herb sauce, recalls the inventive spirit of a nun known for defying conventional norms by adding a surprising twist, a dash of unexpected spice that transformed the ordinary into a legendary delight. You relish the robust flavors that roll onto your palate, each bite entwining a trace of historical pragmatism with an unmistakable whisper of rebellion. The banquet is a living narrative of the duality of joy and mysticism. Every course is an invitation to taste the old secrets, to share in a common heritage that refuses to be confined solely by piety or austerity. As you partake in this celebration, the interplay of flavors and fragrances draws you into a state of mindful appreciation. You realize that the lavish banquet is not just a feast for the senses, but an embodiment of community and quiet defiance, a gathering where every ingredient is imbued with the spirit of discovery. The clamor and cheer apart from your table merge into a single woven soundscape in which you are both an observer and a participant. Laughter bubbles up during moments when a jester's quick witticism recalls light-hearted anecdotes of culinary errors gone beautifully sideways, and somber acknowledgements remind you of the sacred rituals that defined these feasts. The subtle jokes like the one about a roasted quail that was rumored to have been served with a side of celestial sauce earn you a reflective smile, marking the delicate balance between indulgence and sanctity. Your journey through the banquet becomes a sensory exploration of more than just taste. It's an invitation to experience the essence of medieval conviviality. Aromatic stews are as much artistic expressions as they are physical sustenance. Each recipe, masterfully balanced, carries both the weight of tradition and the glitter of innovative spirit. The banquet establishes an intricate dialogue between the performances of nature and the narrative of human craft, a dialogue imbued with both the solemn gravitas of religious commitment and the delightful irreverence of playful surprise. In the midst of this grand feast, you immerse yourself completely. Your eyes drink in the opulent decor and the vibrant interplay of shadows and light. Your ears capture the rhythmic clinking of utensils and soft melodies that mingle with murmurs of conviviality. And your taste buds awaken with every carefully curated flavor. Through this immersive banquet, you find a bridge to a world where the sacred and the profane, the timeless ritual and the momentary burst of whimsy coalesce into an experience that nourishes not just the body, but also the soul. Every bite you savor, every glance you share with a fellow diner, reaffirms that this isn't merely a meal, it's a living piece of medieval history, transforming the art of dining into an extraordinary celebration of life's dual nature. As you lean back with a relaxed smile and a quietly contented sigh, you are filled with the knowledge that each rare moment, each unexpected laugh, and every taste of defiant culinary genius is part of an opulent tapestry that endures far beyond the echo of medieval chants, a tapestry woven with threads of ingenuity, heart, and a hint of mischief that continues to inspire the art of dining today. You push aside a heavy, carved curtain to reveal a shadowy nook tucked away behind a row of dusty spice shelves, an incongruous laboratory where forbidden techniques of food preservation and preparation unfold like clandestine experiments. Here, in this secret alcove, the air is charged with a heady mix of vinegar tang, smoky residue, and the unspoken promise of culinary transgression. You enter with a blend of trepidation and delight, aware that you are about to witness marvels that defy the ordinary, where every ritual is performed with the audacity of adventurers who dare to challenge established norms. Immediately before your very eyes, you observe a long, battered wooden table cluttered with arcane apparatuses, intricately designed ceramic jars with peculiar, swirling inscriptions, crude copper stills, and a collection of leather-bound scrolls that detail methods considered too eccentric for the mainstream. One large, weathered stone basin sits proudly in the center, its surface slick with a mysterious, amber-tinted substance that appears to be a primitive form of preserved sauce. You run your fingers along the cool stone, feeling the slight dampness that hints at secret techniques of fermentation and reduction that have been carefully honed over centuries. In a burst of whispered awe, you recall that many medieval convents were laboratories of experimental gastronomy, where preservation methods were as much an act of survival as they were a daring exploration into the unknown. As you examine the odd contraptions lining the room, you discover an assortment of forbidden methods. A particularly intriguing setup uses a series of interconnected earthen pots submerged partially richer, a brine of wild herbs and aromatic vinegars. This system was designed to slowly cure meats and vegetables, infusing them with layers of flavor that defied the straightforward methods of boiling or roasting. You see evidence that even the most pragmatic preservation techniques were given over to experimentation. A narrow, worn-out parchment fixated to the table recounts how clashing elements, smoke, salt, and a secret herbal infusion combined in a single, elaborate process to yield a preservation technique that was both effective and unexpectedly entertaining. Historians still argue whether these forbidden techniques were driven more by necessity than by culinary whimsy, or if they were the natural outgrowth of a creative spirit seeking to rebel against mundane restrictions. Your eyes then fall upon a contraption that looks like a mechanical marvel, a rotating, hand-cranked device designed to agitate and aerate a vat of fermenting wine, mixed with ground spices. As you watch, the mixture transforms before your eyes. Vigorous bubbles emerge as the concoction foams into an oddly textured creme. It is a technique used to create a unique condiment that could be drizzled over hearty stews or even used as a dipping sauce for freshly baked flatbread. The mechanism, now silent, offers a glimpse of medieval ingenuity meshed with a touch of madcap inventiveness, an innovation that suggests even the strictest orders left room for culinary experimentation. A quirky tidbit from local lore has it that a particularly eccentric novice once reverse-engineered the mechanism, turning it into an impromptu musical instrument whose whirring rhythm accompanied impromptu bouts of laughter among the cloistered sisters. In another corner of this clandestine space, you encounter a series of sealed earthen jars containing what at first appears to be ordinary pickled vegetables. However, a closer look reveals that these jars were part of an experiment in layered flavor extraction, a method where ingredients were left to mingle over extended periods, allowing flavors to blend in unpredictable ways. The jars, adorned with faded symbols and curious markings, signal a deliberate deviation from the rigid traditional practices. There is a suspended moment here, as if time itself were coaxed into a slow dance with curiosity. You feel a rush of excitement cutting through the gloom. This is innovation unshackled by convention. The pungent aroma contrasts with a subtle sweetness, an unexpected alchemy that transforms the mundane into a culinary enigma. In these jars, you sense the echo of innovative souls who sought, through defiant experimentation, to harness the unpredictable magic of natural decay and fermentation. Your exploration takes you further, to a small workbench cluttered with ingredients in various stages of experimental fusion. Here, you see bundles of herbs, some still fresh and vibrant, being combined with viscous liquids and allowed to macerate in sealed containers. An ancient copper kettle sits in the middle, its surface engraved with barely legible runes of culinary secrets. You watch as a nun, her face partially hidden by a hood, methodically pours a measured amount of a pungent, fermented broth into another vessel, her eyes flickering with the thrill of subversive creativity. You can almost hear the soft clink of her tools echoing in the space, accompanied by a gentle murmur of anticipation. This act, as meticulously executed as it is rebellious, reminds you that even the most sacred kitchens held a space for techniques that teetered on the edge of the forbidden. A bright flash of playful irony accompanies your journey when you catch sight of a small, crudely fashioned flavor bomb, a round mass of compressed spices, herbs, and a secret ingredient that would explode into a kaleidoscope of taste when mixed with even a drop of water. The story behind this bomb is as much a fable as it is a documented experiment. A pair of daring novices, bored with the predictability of their daily meals, crafted the bomb in a fit of culinary mischief. The resulting flavor explosion, rather than inciting chaos, transformed a bland porridge into a dish that sang with unexpected zest and humor. This moment, both absurd and charming, perfectly encapsulates the essence of forbidden techniques, a defiant act of flavor artistry, immortalized in the quiet rebellion of kitchen alchemy. You also notice a curious arrangement where ingredients are suspended in vats attached to intricate pulley systems. These contraptions were used to experiment with the controlled aging of sauces, allowing them to develop into rich, complex infusions over days or even weeks. The slow drip of liquid from a suspended herb bundle into a vat below creates a mesmerizing, almost meditative rhythm. The sound, a gentle dripping, punctuated by occasional clacks as stones shift and settle, adds another sensory layer to your experience. This laborious process, combining art and science, was sometimes labeled as the slow magic by those who dared to delve into it. The process not only preserved the ingredients but also transformed their very essence, rendering them into condensed, centuries-old elixirs of flavor that continue to mystify modern palates. As you linger, absorbing the sight and sound of these esoteric practices, you are drawn to a secluded workstation where ancient texts lie alongside fragments of disassembled apparatuses, faded ink, and hurried notes scribbled in cramped Latin detail procedures, so complex that even the most seasoned culinary scholars might have paused in wonder. Tempered by both precision and spontaneity, these texts reveal that dangerous combinations and outlandish methods were often embraced as the key to breakthroughs in taste. It is here you perceive that the forbidden techniques, although shunned by some regulatory hands, were cherished by those who believed that food should be a daring adventure. The interplay of risk and reward, of discipline intertwined with a spark of rebel ingenuity, fills this space with an undeniable vibrancy. Every element in this room, every jar, every contraption, every fragile parchment tells a story of defiant persistence. You realize that these forbidden techniques are not simply relics of past culinary misadventures, but rather living testaments to an era when the boundaries of tradition were constantly being redrawn. In these shadowed corners, experiments were as routine as prayers, and every scandalous method was a poetic nod to the untamed spirit of innovation that dared to blend the sacred with the profane. The interplay between hastily scribbled instructions and the quiet determination of experimental chefs becomes a captivating narrative in itself, one that challenges your own understanding of what it means to create something truly extraordinary. As you finally step back to absorb the full impact of what you've witnessed, a nuanced calm fills you, a recognition that these forbidden techniques are emblematic of humanity's eternal quest to explore beyond the known. They stand as icons of culinary daring, where even the most unorthodox practices were embraced in the hope of discovering a rare, ineffable expression of flavor. Your mind drifts between admiration and amusement as you recount the visual surprises and subtle humor embedded in each experiment, the secret bursts of laughter, the accidental splatters of sauce, and the triumphant glimmers in the eyes of those who dared to defy culinary convention. In this hidden chamber of culinary subversion, you are both a witness to and participant in the storied legacy of those who turned ordinary cooking into an extraordinary art form. The records of forbidden techniques, steeped in mystery and imbued with the risk of innovation, continue to whisper across the ages. They beckon you to consider that perhaps the truest feast is one that challenges both the palate and the spirit, a banquet of daring ideas forever preserved in the annals of kitchens that refuse to be bound by the ordinary. You now find yourself in a secluded chamber where solemnity and creativity dance as one, a space where holy rituals seamlessly merge with the art of cooking, casting an otherworldly glow upon every infusing gesture. In this sacred enclave, the air shimmers with anticipation, while candles flicker against ancient stone, highlighting a counter laden with vessels and sacred implements. Here, ingredients are not simply combined, they are ceremonially blessed, each drop and dash imbued with a symbolism that transcends mere nourishment. You watch a pair of devoted practitioners, their robes whispering against smooth marble, performing delicate rituals. They intone soft, measured chants as they add liquid from brass pitchers, meticulously pouring oils, herbal extracts, and vials of fermented elixirs into a hand-carved bowl. Every act is deliberate and laden with meaning, a sensuous ballet that weaves together faith, artistry, and the very essence of life itself. The soft murmur of incantations melds with the gentle clinks of ceramic jars and copper ladles, whose surfaces gleam with the patina of countless years. You are drawn to a large, earthen receptacle at the center of the chamber, upon which rests a vibrant infusion of crushed rose petals, saffron, and a mysterious amber liquid that glows like captured sunlight. This ceremonial concoction, prepared in reverence for a long-forgotten saint, is believed to bridge the gap between the temporal and the divine, a sacred infusion meant to be anointed over bread, stewed meats, and even poured into small cups to comfort a weary spirit after long, meditative hours. A mainstream historical fact resonates in your mind. Medieval culinary traditions often intertwined closely with spiritual rituals, wherein every pinch, every stirred swirl, carried the weight of both practical sustenance and the eternal quest for deeper meaning. As the ritual unfolds, you notice that each ingredient has a story whispered along its every molecular bond. The fragrant saffron, for example, was not merely a colorant but a symbol of passion and sacrifice, while the scattered rose petals evoke tender memories of love letters penned in monastic solitude. You trace the careful paths left by the pouring of oils, a shimmering cascade that seems to transform the mixture into a living tapestry of liquid gold and ruby flame. It is as though the container itself has become a sacred chalice, offering nourishment that is as much spiritual sustenance as it is a stroke of culinary genius. A quirky tidbit tugs at your thoughts. Local lore has it that one convent, renowned for its radical approach to ritual infusions, would sometimes incorporate a rare wild berry known to induce a fleeting, yet euphoric dreamlike state, a whispered legend so bold that its mere mention could bring a mischievous smile to a stern face. With each deliberate movement, you feel a connection to the ritualistic origins of these infusions, where the mundane act of combining ingredients was elevated to a divine encounter. The practitioners move as if in a slow dance, where the rhythmic stirring of the sacred mixture is punctuated by soft, approving murmurs. Their gestures, steeped in centuries of accumulated wisdom, portray an artistry that defies simple explanation. Historians still argue whether these elaborate infusions were created primarily as medicinal marvels, or if they also served as expressions of an esoteric spirituality, meant to capture the fleeting moments when heaven and earth graze one another. The debate adds an enchanting layer of mystique to your experience, a reminder that within this cauldron of symbol and spice, nothing is ever as it seems. Your eyes settle on a cluster of small, burnished pewter cups, lined up neatly on a pedestal near a glowing brazier. Each cup is reserved for a specific ceremony, its design etched with runes and floral motifs. In a slow, hypnotic motion, a seasoned practitioner dips a delicate spoon into the slowly thickening infusion and then transfers the elixir into one of these cups, ensuring that no drop is wasted. The profound care with which every action is performed radiates from the intricate blend of the ingredients and the seemingly magical properties they acquire when united. You sense that each infusion is a living poem composed in aromas and flavors, a living narrative where every stirring ripple speaks of devotion, innovation, and an unyielding desire to transcend mortal limits. A subtle warmth emanates from the infusion, inviting you to lean closer and inhale its heady aroma. The mixture exudes a delicate balance of sweet and smoky tones, punctuated by hints of earthiness that recall the rich soils of vast, ancient gardens. This is not a recipe born solely out of necessity. It's an offering crafted with precision to evoke a myriad of emotions, from solemn introspection to the delicate flicker of mirth. You observe as a novice, whose hands tremble ever so slightly from both reverence and excitement, carefully decorates the rim of a cup with a single dried lavender bud. In that small, artful addition, you perceive a message that even in the most sacred of preparations, there is room for personal flair, a gentle rebellion that softens the rigidity of time-honored traditions. Lightly, the practitioner adds another ingredient, a few drops of citrus essence extracted from an orchard, preserved in long-forgotten manuscripts. The citrus, with its brilliant, almost ethereal brightness, marries exquisitely with the darker, richer flavors already interwoven in the infusion. Each drop seems to pulse with life, enhancing the vibrancy of the mixture in a manner that is both impossibly delicate and profoundly intentional. The interplay of flavors hints at the alchemical principles of color theory and balance that were as revered then as they are in modern culinary studies, an ever-judicious reminder of the interplay between tradition and innovation. Throughout this intricate ceremony, you perceive a world where culinary art and spiritual devotion are not separate, but parts of a seamless whole. Every splash of liquid, every carefully executed stir, carries with it the intention to sanctify not merely the food that would follow, but the very essence of the life it touched. The fragrant steam, rising in soft wisps, forms delicate shapes in the cool air, as if dancing to a silent hymn composed for this sacred moment. You witness the interplay of light and shadow as the flickering candles cast elongated silhouettes on the walls, each a silent ode to ages past and mysteries yet to be deciphered. Standing in the heart of the chamber, you internalize the sense of serenity and profound connection that these ceremonial infusions bring. The eloquent rituals that unfold before you reveal that in this realm, cooking becomes an art of prayer, a language that speaks in flavors and scents, transcending the barriers of time and mortal existence. Every nuance of motion, every ingredient carefully blessed and merged, invites you to experience a rare communion with history, a dialogue with souls that have long since departed, yet whose whispers still linger on the breeze of antediluvian halls. You are left with a deep, resonant understanding that these rituals were not mere culinary fancies, but profound expressions of the human spirit, a desire to find the divine in every morsel of existence. Each ceremonial infusion is a chronicle of both quiet devotion and fearless creativity, forged in the crucible of ancient kitchens, where art and the sacred converged in a timeless dance. As your eyes dusk over the final layers of this mesmerizing process, you are enveloped in a gentle warmth, a silent music that promises the eternal cycle of discovery, faith, and subtle magic. You cross a threshold into a hidden, echoing dining hall where murmurs blend with clinks of broken porcelain and the hushed cadence of clandestine conversation. Here, beyond the watchful eyes of the cloister's formal dining rooms, a secret assembly gathers, a space reserved for those who dare to blend culinary innovation with spirited debate. The room is dimly lit by a scattering of flickering torches and delicate stained glass windows that cast shifting patches of colour onto rough-hewn stone walls. The ambiance is both intimate and conspiratorial, as if each shadow conceals a whispered confidence or a morsel of daring insight. As you glide deeper into the gathering, you feel enveloped by an atmosphere that is quietly electric. The gentle hum of dialogue merges with the soft rustle of parchment and the occasional clatter of a wooden spoon, punctuating an exchange that is as much about ideas as it is about sustenance. In this sanctum of secret nourishment, you find the tables arranged in irregular clusters around a central fire pit, whose glowing embers lend a subdued warmth to the cool stones. Each table is a living mosaic of candor and confluence, where conversations meander from the subtle techniques of source reduction to the bold concepts of flavor experimentation. You settle into a low, cushioned seat beside a long, aged oak table marred by the scratches and stains of many fervent debate. Here, pairings of ancient recipes and modern sensibilities coexist, a community that revives forgotten ingredients through debate, trial, and sometimes outright playful insurgency against established norms. A mainstream historical fact underpins the legacy of such gatherings. Many medieval convents believed that sharing a humble meal and engaging in earnest discussion nurtured both body and intellect, creating bonds through food and fellowship alike. As you listen in, one of the eldest members recounts the careful art of spicing, emphasizing that each pinch of pepper and splash of vermilion wine was measured with the same precision as a healer's remedy. You sense that the act of dining in this cloistered space is not simply an exercise in satiation, but a quiet celebration of a long-lost culinary democracy, where all voices, from the timid novice to the seasoned culinary master, contributed to a living tapestry of gustatory wisdom. The softness of voices, interlaced with the lilting inflections of local dialects, creates an auditory painting that evolves with each turn of conversation. At one table, you overhear a lively discussion that flares up when someone proposes an unconventional twist to an ancient stew recipe by introducing a rare herb known only to a select few. The humor is subtle yet infectious, a witty remark about the herb's supposed magic to cause uncontrollable winks, in a tone reminiscent of a jesting monk, elicits a ripple of light-hearted laughter. A quirky tidbit passes among the diners, one that recalls an infamous night when a daring sister introduced a petal from a clandestine flower, reportedly harvested at midnight, to provoke a burst of unexpected flavor and an ensuing bout of subdued mirth. These gentle, almost conspiratorial chuckles seem to affirm that, even among those bound by solemn habit, creativity finds room to blossom in secret. The gathering is not merely an exchange of culinary philosophy, it is also an arena for subtle artistic performances. You notice a pair of figures at the far end of the hall, who engage in what might be considered a culinary debate of sorts. They lean over an open ledger, tracing the history of a particularly obscure recipe with their fingers, a playful duel of wits that oscillates between passionate advocacy for tradition and an irreverent delight in modern reinterpretations. Their voices, soft yet distinctly clear, carry the tone of those who know that the art of seasoning is intertwined with the art of storytelling. Historians still argue whether these clandestine conclaves were simply casual gatherings for nourishment or deliberate incubators for culinary innovation destined to ripple out into later eras, a debate whose open-ended nature only adds to the night's mystique. As the candlelight dances on the polished table wood, every sound, every whisper, seems to carry the weight of both memory and possibility. You watch as a young apprentice, clutching a time-worn manuscript, dares to suggest a reinterpretation of an age-old source which once graced the banquet halls of sacred retreats. His voice carries a respectful eagerness, tempered with the resolve of someone who knows that the fusion of old and new is a risky yet exhilarating endeavor. There's an unmistakable thrill in the air, a palpable sense of collective anticipation as ideas are tested, debated, and gently refined under the approving gaze of peers. The subtle clash of viewpoints becomes a periodic interlude amid the otherwise smooth evening, its cadence punctuated by soft applause and reflective nods. Around you, the ambiance intensifies with the mingling aromas of freshly drawn water, roasted chestnuts, and a lingering hint of herbal infusion, all of which conspire to weave a sensory backdrop to the debates unfolding. A curious contraption, a repurposed spit used in ancient times for roasting, and a cluster of mismatched cups that seem to have been passed down through countless iterations of this secret assembly, serve as silent ambassadors of continuity. Each object appears imbued with the residue of countless conversations, echoing with laughter and animated debate. You feel that this hall, hidden away from the prying eyes of the strict outside world, is a sanctuary where ideas simmer gently, much like a well-loved stew that absorbs the complexities and subtleties of every added ingredient. The interplay of light, sound, and aromatic traces transforms the hall into a living canvas of communion, a space where every shared meal ignites a spark of passion and every whispered idea challenges the status quo. In the hushed carry of the night, you come to understand that these cloistered gatherings are more than just secret feasts. They are a forum for mutual support and a sanctuary for progressive thought. The soft, vigilant murmurs that drift between the tables remind you that here, even in a world dictated by rigid observance, there exists a rebellious longing for expression, innovation, and occasional, affectionate irreverence. And as you contribute silently to the unfolding dialogue, absorbing both the palpable warmth of shared experience and the discreet humor that emerges when tradition is questioned, you sense that you have become part of a timeless dialogue. The room itself seems to hum with a collective heartbeat, a pulse woven through with memories of dinners past and promises of future reinventions. You realize that in this understated yet fertile space, every clandestine suggestion, every subtle joke, and every respectful argument stands as a testament to the enduring power of food as both nourishment and inspiration. With every soft murmur and every artful debate, you feel a growing kinship with these culinary pioneers, those who continue to push the boundaries of what a simple meal can represent. Their shared laughter and gentle banter weave a quiet narrative of daring creativity, and you, too, are drawn into the embrace of their collective story, a tale where ideas are as vibrant as the dishes they help create, and every whispered exchange is a seed planted in the fertile ground of culinary revolution. You step further into a realm of mystic flavors, where each bite becomes a narrative on its own, a bold tale told in a language of fruit compotes, subtly smoky essences, and a persistent sense of playful defiance. The ambience shifts as you find yourself at the edge of a long, polished counter, where an array of intriguing dishes intermingles in a tapestry of colors and textures. Here, an assortment of meticulously crafted compotes from dried fruits, apples, pears, and even a few wild berries are artfully drizzled with a balsamic reduction reduced to a syrupy consistency. A gentle waft of oak-smoked infusion mingles with the tart brightness of the compotes, creating a flavor profile that seems at once enigmatic and deeply familiar. As you take your first bite, you taste a startling boldness, the sweetness of ancient orchards balanced by the smoky caress of a fire long extinguished, yet whose embers still whisper secrets of tradition and innovation. You savor the juxtaposition, a subtle clue to a history where rich, earthy flavors and daring spices dared to rewrite the rules of convent cuisine. As you continue to explore these mystic flavors, you notice the fine detail on every plate. The fruit compotes, gently cooked in a heavy copper cauldron, retain an almost ethereal quality as they interlace with traces of wild herbs, gently crushed to release their intoxicating aromas. You recall that medieval convent kitchens valued these fruit concoctions not only as a dessert but as an integral part of many savory dishes, merging sweetness with robust, herbaceous intensity. A mainstream historical fact echoes in your thoughts. It was common for medieval culinary texts to depict fruit compotes as the nexus of contrasting flavors, a harmonious blend of nature's bounty and innovative techniques honed through centuries of careful experimentation. In this moment, It is as if every ingredient has been summoned from a memory of verdant orchards and deep, smoky hearths, each contributing its chapter to an evolving story. A playful defiance pulses through the dish when you encounter a curious infusion, a spark of unorthodoxy that few modern kitchens would dare to replicate. Disguised beneath its refined veneer is an unexpected twist, a dollop of tangy, smoky sauce composed of slowly roasted chestnuts and a pinch of aniseed, known in hushed circles for its ability to evoke vivid imagery of clandestine midnight feasts. A quirky tidbit surfaces in your mind, a faint whisper from culinary lore about a rebellious nun who once introduced an unconventional roasted chestnut reduction into a standard compote, changing its essence entirely. A daring act, met with both astonished silence and clandestine smiles, continues to puzzle modern scholars even as it tickles the notion that creativity knows no bounds, not even in the most reverent kitchens. The flavors on your tongue tell a tale that is as layered as it is intricate. A strawberry compote, laced with hickory smoke, offers a playful note that interrupts the otherwise smooth narrative, convincing you that even ancient recipes had room for improvisation and cheeky humor. The sweet smoky dance flatters your senses, and you feel as if each bite is a gentle reminder that the art of cooking was as much about human expression as it was about sustenance. The interplay of textures, from the soft, melting compote to the crisp edge of caramelized fruit skins, compels you to appreciate the masterful balancing act that these medieval cooks must have perfected. Historians still argue whether such dishes were initially devised as a symbol of divine indulgence or as a clever means to mask the austerity of daily monastic life, a debate rendered richer by the evidence of flavors that deliberately straddle the line between the conventional and the rebellious. Your journey through these mystic flavors is punctuated by another subtle, yet unmistakable, twist. A garnish of candied violet petals. The delicate perfume and slight bitterness bring forth a contrast that both elevates and challenges your palate, an artistic flourish that most modern chefs might dismiss as frivolous but which serves as a gentle nod to the nuanced understanding of flavor pairings in ancient kitchens. The taste of these flowers, soft, almost fleeting, lingers just long enough to remind you that beauty in culinary art is often found in the unexpected, in the unconventional, and in the delicate dance between opposite. In this realm, every ingredient is given a purpose, not simply to satisfy hunger but to inspire wonder. The table before you is a microcosm of an alchemical experiment, a carefully constructed ensemble where fruit, smoke, herbs, and spices converge into a dish that sings with the voices of many centuries. You notice that a small, intricately decorated bowl holds a sauce that seems to capture the very essence of twilight, a balance of savory umami and sweet undertones, with an enigmatic twist of bitter citrus. It is as if this sauce is a liquid memory of evenings spent around communal fires when stories and recipes were passed down in hushed tones, intermingled with laughter that defied the gravity of the times. The medley of flavors is both a celebration and a quiet defiance, a declaration that behind every dish lies the spirit of those who dared to innovate under the strictest constraints. Layer upon layer, your taste buds are caressed by the well-planned contrasts. A compote that begins with the soft caress of baked pear and gently transitions into the smoky fervor of roasted figs. A sauce that opens with a tart, refreshing pinch of pomegranate, evolving into a deeply rich, almost velvety blend of spices that hovers in the background like a forgotten lullaby. The complexity is breathtaking, a veritable symphony performed on the stage of medieval culinary artistry. The building of this flavor narrative reminds you that these ancient recipes were not merely about sustenance. They were carefully curated experiences designed to evoke emotions and spark debate among those who partook in them. In a quiet moment between spoonfuls, you feel the weight of history merge with the light-hearted irreverence that defines these mystic concoctions. The collision of rules and rebellion, the disciplined pursuit of perfection, and the occasional, almost defiant playfulness converge in a single elegant bite. A whisper of skepticism surfaces in your mind as you recall that modern scholars still puzzle over how such intricate flavor profiles came to be in kitchens where austerity was the norm. Historians still argue whether the intentions behind these recipes were rooted in a daring blend of scientific curiosity and spiritual longing, or if, perhaps, they were simply the result of countless culinary mishaps transformed into triumphs through serendipitous innovation. As you continue your tasting, the interplay of smoky essence and fruit compote reveals yet another layer, a subtle infusion of wild lavender that tingles on your tongue like a gentle, yet persistent reminder of the miraculous power of nature's gift. The lavender, with its aromatic sharpness, is integrated so delicately into an otherwise rich, sweet ensemble that it feels like an unorthodox punctuation in an otherwise perfectly constructed sentence of flavor. The dish sings its own song, each ingredient a carefully placed note that contributes to a longer narrative, one that traverses the line from divine culinary art to a mischievous and playful rebellion against the adverse tides of monotony. Through every bite, every infusion, you are reminded that the sensory language of these ancient recipes is timeless. The mystic flavors before you do more than please the palate. They evoke stories of daring experimentation, clandestine innovations, and the relentless human pursuit to transform everyday ingredients into extraordinary expressions of art. With each taste, you feel the pulse of centuries, the echo of secret kitchens, and the light-hearted chuckle of those who defied the expected with a single, masterfully executed burst of flavor. You come to understand that the narrative woven into these mystic flavors is not merely a relic of the past, but an invitation to experience the eternal dance between tradition and creative audacity, a dance whose steps continue to inspire the culinary innovations of today. You wander into a cavern of innovation, where time-forgotten inventions whisper through worn parchment and ingenious contrivances, and you become an intrepid explorer of recipe designs that marry practicality and profound culinary artistry. The space unfolds before you like a secret workshop of ancient alchemists. Here, behind heavy oak doors draped with ivy, a collection of atypical culinary inventions awaits your discovery. Tables laden with archaic tools, rotary graters, crude contraptions for mixing dough by the rhythm of water wheels, and even an early prototype of a mechanical rotisserie line the room. You sense that each artifact is the result of countless hours of experimentation, where the desire to create something extraordinary found refuge in inventive techniques that transformed everyday ingredients into symbols of sublime creativity. Your eyes settle on a peculiar apparatus that resembles a hybrid between a simple mortar and a contraption more at home in a medieval laboratory. Crafted entirely of wood and metal, it was designed to grind spices with the same finesse as a modern blender, yet operated solely by the force of a turning handle. As you run your hand along its worn surface, you imagine a resourceful nun, determined to bring rapidity to her meal preparations, twirling the handle with a rhythmic determination that resonated like the turning of a great clock. The sound of the rotating mechanism mingles with the gentle hiss of the wind under it, echoing the duality of old-world ingenuity and a quiet yearning for efficiency. A mainstream historical fact reverberates in your mind. Medieval kitchens, often constrained by rudimentary tools, nevertheless became the crucibles of inventive problem-solving, where every mechanical device was a step toward culinary evolution. In one dust-laden corner, you uncover a remarkable invention that marries practicality with culinary sophistication, a contraption fashioned from repurposed barrel staves, metal weights, and a series of interconnected pulleys that could be set in motion by a single push. This device, ingeniously devised to infuse juices and sauces by mimicking the natural oscillation of a pendulum, once revolutionized the way ingredients were emulsified. You picture a scene where, beneath the flickering glow of a solitary candle, a clever artisan adjusts the delicate balance of the machine, watching in both awe and amusement as a new form of sauce takes shape. Its design is not unlike a modern immersion blender in conceptual spirit, yet it bears the unmistakable patina of medieval resourcefulness, a testament to the era's penchant for transforming simplicity into art. Historians still argue whether such innovations were born purely out of necessity, or if they served as playful experiments aimed at outsmarting the time's culinary limitations. A quirky tidbit flashes through your thoughts. A lively mural, once painted on a monastery wall, depicted an ambitious cook, showcasing his latest invention, a contraption that churned butter by the synchronous motion of chanting monks. Legend has it, the device not only produced butter smooth enough to rival any present-day spread, but also managed to incite a ripple of unexpected hilarity, when the rhythmic clamour of choral voices turned the entire process into an impromptu dance of missteps and giggles. You smile, remembering that even in the pursuit of perfection, a spark of irreverence found its niche among these venerable kitchens, a reminder that innovation often tiptoes hand in hand with a mischievous sense of humour. Your journey continues as you discover an assembly of ingenious innovations, preserved within a set of meticulously organised leather-bound ledgers. Their fragile pages contain sketches and cryptic annotations that reveal the thought process behind early culinary inventions. One drawing illustrates an intricate method for baking a type of spiced bread, its design employing a multi-chambered oven that used leftover heat from a central hearth to drive convection currents, ensuring an even bake throughout. You delicately trace the faded ink with your fingertip, marveling at how such devices illustrate a blend of scientific inquiry and artistic aspiration. The method, detailed alongside intricate diagrams, beckons you to reimagine the possibilities of cooking with limited resources. Every scribbled note breathes life into the inventive spirit behind the recipe, and you can almost hear the soft laughter of culinary artisans who dared to dream beyond the mundane confines of their rudimentary kitchens. A subtle orchestration of lights flickers from a nearby oil lamp, revealing an even more fascinating contraption, a mechanical juicer that uses the pull of a lever and the interplay of gravity to extract the essence of fruits with unprecedented efficiency. The device, fashioned from hand-forged iron and polished cedar wood, stands as an emblem of practicality meeting aesthetics. Its ingenious design not only preserves the integrity of fragile fruits, but also lends an unmistakable flavor to the resulting juices, which were believed to possess restorative properties. You imagine the meticulous hand of its creator, who pored over each design detail with the reverence of a scientist and the passion of an artist. A subtle debate lingers in your memory. Historians still argue whether such mechanical devices were early progenitors of modern culinary technology or merely whimsical diversions, born out of idle moments, each perspective a taste of the era's eternal allure for innovation. Venturing deeper into the room, you encounter an impressive workbench, cluttered with prototype models of what might be called the first culinary gadgets. A copper kettle fitted with an adjustable steam valve shares space with a rudimentary slicer that uses a set of interlocking gears to produce uniformly cut strips of vegetables with every pull of a lever. There's a palpable excitement in the air, a sense of discovery similar to that felt when opening a long-forgotten cookbook, filled with secret recipes passed down through hushed generations. Every device here, however archaic, is imbued with a blend of warmth, history, and the indomitable spirit of practical invention. In one corner, a small, hand-carved model of a revolving spit for roasting meat hints at an early attempt to standardize the art of cooking over open flames, a forerunner to modern rotisserie methods. The explanations scribbled alongside each model are both functional and whimsical, as if the inventors intended their contrivances to serve not only as tools of nourishment, but as enduring symbols of creative rebellion against the limitations imposed by their times. You linger on a large, time-worn parchment that illustrates an elaborate process for creating a multi-layered pastry, a dish that required careful management of heat distribution between several interconnected ovens. The drawing speaks volumes about the determination to perfect the art of baking, even when confronted by burdensome obstacles such as unreliable fire sources and fluctuating room temperatures. This innovative pastry design was arguably one of the first to incorporate a concept resembling modern layering techniques, where distinct flavors and textures were meticulously assembled to create a rich, harmonious whole. You are struck by the realization that every conceivable inconvenience was transformed into an opportunity for invention, and that necessity truly was the mother of culinary innovation. Throughout the space, a chorus of subtle sounds reinforces the narrative of creative flourishing. Soft metallic clicks from a delicate mechanism being adjusted here, the rustle of a parchment page turning there, and the measured, rhythmic hum of an ancient machine powered by the strength of human hands. It is as though the very air vibrates with the harmonious interplay of invention and tradition, inviting you to savor the ingenuity that continues to echo long past the era in which it was born. You marvel at the skill and resourcefulness of those early innovators, and a sense of kinship swells within you, a recognition that, despite the passage of centuries, the drive to improve, to create, and to innovate remains as potent and enduring as ever. In this hall of venerated innovations, every device, every recorded experiment, and every quirky anomaly serves as a testament to a legacy where practicality and artistry were interwoven in the kitchen's daily cadence. Even as you admire the mechanical marvels and ingenious recipes forged in these silent, revered moments of culinary revolution, you cannot help but feel a deep appreciation for the spirit that continues to inspire modern adaptations. The ancient contraptions, though rudimentary by today's standards, epitomize a creative fervor that has transcended time, a fervor that celebrated every miscalculation as much as every triumph. With a final glance at this resplendent collection of culinary inventions, you step back, your mind alight with the memories of ingenious designs and playful innovations, each a reminder that the path to progress is paved with bold ideas, relentless determination, and perhaps a dash of irreverent humor. You carry with you the echoes of those who fashioned a better way to serve, mix, and savor, a legacy that continues to resound in kitchens both old and new, where every innovation is a small, delightful rebellion against the ordinary. You drift into a softly lit corridor that feels at once familiar and entirely new, a threshold where the austere simplicity of early recipes merges with an unexpected opulence drawn from far-off lands, as if culinary secrets from across Europe were whispered into the same sacred earthen bowl. The space is awash with a light, diffused glow candlelit shadows that mingle with hints of exotic spice and foreign fruit. As you ambulate through this transitional realm, you sense that you are walking along a seam where tradition and innovation merge seamlessly. Every aroma, every delicate sound of simmering sauces, and every hissing whisper of herbs coalesce into an intricate tapestry of flavor. The atmosphere is almost surreal, as if, for a moment, the simplicity of a peasant dish embraces the luxurious touch of silk and spice imported from distant empires. Every step underfoot is measured and slow, inviting you to savor the subtle interplay of ingredients carefully fashioned over centuries. You notice that, tucked away among rustic stone ovens and time-worn copper pans, there are glimpses of more lavish influences: the spice from an Eastern bazaar, a drizzle of Mediterranean olive oil, and a sprinkle of a rare herb that might have traveled from the Levant. A mainstream historical fact floats through your mind. Many medieval kitchens, though steeped in frugality, absorbed the culinary essences from various cultural exchanges, a phenomenon that enriched their recipes in silent, opulent fusion. The cultural cross-pollination is as gentle as it is profound, each ingredient gently inserted into the melting pot of recipes, stirring memories of medieval merchants and secret trade routes, all converging in a single, harmonious plate. You pass by a long, narrow counter, carved from aged oak, where two carefully arranged bowls lie side by side. One contains a humble, thick porridge made from locally ground grains, its texture rustic yet hearty. The other cradles a luxurious reduction of pomegranate and rare saffron, its colour as vivid as a sunset. The two seem to exist in an unspoken dialogue, a quiet collaboration between the plain and the refined. As you run your fingers over the cool surface of the counter, you recall that these seemingly disparate elements were not arbitrarily combined. The frail simplicity of local produce was elevated by the introduction of sumptuous ingredients, discovered through trade or as vibrant accretions of cultural influence. Historians still argue whether such fusions were born out of necessity or the innate human desire to break free from monotony. It remains a delicious debate that flavors this very narrative. The air around you is alive with murmurs of an ancient culinary language, in hushed tones of delicate infusions and bold, unexpected pairings. You can faintly detect the noble tang of citrus, a gift from sunlit groves, and the heady aroma of spices that speak of far-off markets. Perhaps carried by traders who ventured through wind-swept deserts, the culinary artisans of the convent, in secret, experimented with these ingredients in ways that allowed them to transcend their modest origins, blending the best of both worlds into a dish that was neither entirely rustic nor entirely refined, but rather an echo of a time when cultural boundaries were not barriers but invitations. A quirky tidbit flits into your thoughts. It's said that one particularly adventurous cook, in a fit of playful brilliance, mixed her everyday vegetable stew with a splash of imported pomegranate wine, a combination that, after a few curious sips, turned the dish into a banquet of unexpected flavors, sparking both awe and affectionate laughter among her peers. You move with a deliberate pace, letting each step pull you deeper into the world of eclectic culinary practices. The room seems to vibrate with a quiet symphony, the coo of distant prayers, the soft clatter of utensils blending with the occasional pop of boiling liquid, an orchestration that hums like a lullaby to your busy mind. The fusion here is not merely about ingredients, it is about ideas and dreams, a testament to a legacy where the meager and the magnificent share a single table. Every morsel encountered is a carefully orchestrated homage to the past, the present, and the distant lands whose flavors arrived like whispered gifts, each one an agent of transformation that reshaped a recipe and nudged it gently toward a higher form. Across the room, you meet a group of culinary enthusiasts, cloistered cooks gathered around a heavy, wrought-iron brazier, whose eyes gleam with the thrill of defying convention. They engage in animated, yet hushed debates about which element best represents the spirit of fusion, the robust tang of local cheese, or the sublime sweetness of imported figs. Their playful banter is punctuated by moments of rapt concentration as they add just a pinch more of a complex spice, listening, as if the simmer of the sauce might reveal yet another secret enchantment. Their conversation mingles with the aroma of ingredients, a fragrant promise of collective passion that, though scholarly and serious, is laced with gentle irreverence and a knowing smile when the right combination surprises them. One of them recounts, with an understated chuckle, how a simple mistake, a double measure of pomegranate vinegar instead of olive oil, once transformed an ordinary stew into an extraordinary revelation of flavor, leaving everyone in fits of soft laughter amid respectful nods. In a quiet recess, you discover a small alcove where the narrative of sacred fusion is visually penned in an old mural. The mural, faded yet dignified, portrays a vibrant mosaic of figures exchanging gifts of food, from humble jarred preserves to elaborate spiced wines. It is a visual poem, capturing an era when such exchanges conveyed not merely culinary enrichment, but also social unity and cultural pride. The mural's colours, though eroded by time, still pulse vividly, echoing a spirit of collaboration and an embrace of diversity that modern gatherings still emulate. You trace the outline of a figure, perhaps a merchant or a wandering cook, with the tip of your finger, feeling the legacy of those who fostered the art of fusion, a delicate balancing act where each ingredient was a note in a grand, delectable symphony. The room is filled with small details that sing softly of its dual nature. Among a scattered heap of dusty recipe scrolls, you find a memo scribbled in hurried calligraphy, noting that the addition of a rare, imported spice not only lent a surprising piquancy to a dish, but, quite humorously, might also have produced the most unexpected bursts of laughter amid a somber feast. The tidbit, though lightly dismissed at the time, now reverberates as a tender reminder that creativity knows no bounds, even when it quivers on the thin line between the sacred and the absurd. Such subtle rebellions are woven throughout the space, echoing softly like an unruly echo in a chapel of flavor. Your exploration continues, each new vista unveiling more instances of fusion that defy simple categorization. A thick, hearty stew simmers in a large, cast-iron pot, its ingredients drawn together from the rich soil of local farms and delicate, gold-tinged spices imported from faraway climes. Its aroma is both grounding and soaring, a hearty comfort that wraps around you and, in the same breath, promises a taste of exotic lands. Every stir and every gentle clack of the pot seems to conspire to remind you that food, much like the human spirit, evolves in the confluence of disparate influences. It is a continuous dialogue, a whisper of trade winds, a rustle of old manuscripts, and the quiet laughter of those who dared to mix worlds. As you stand in this chamber of sacred fusion, a humble realization dawns. Every flavor, every carefully measured spice, is a badge of honor passed down through generations, a token of the unyielding human urge to explore, to connect, and to create something infinitely richer than the sum of its parts. In this place, simplicity and opulence are cast not as adversaries, but as partners in a dance, two halves of a whole that together form the delicious, enigmatic heart of a culinary tradition that both endures and evolves. With a gentle smile and a contented sigh, you let the myriad aromas, subtle flavors, and whispered debates of this room seep deep into your memory. The fusion you witness here is as timeless as it is tender, a delicate, poetic balance that encourages you to cherish every note, every spice, every ingredient that has traveled time and space to be part of this living recipe. You carry onward, your steps light and mindful, knowing that these culinary encounters, like whispered secrets, will forever echo in your own creative endeavors, inviting you to celebrate the harmonious collision of diverse, sacred flavors in every meal. You step back into a dim corridor where the soft echoes of the past seem to linger on every stone. In this quiet passage, every whispered ingredient, every carefully measured pinch, imprints itself on the dishes you have seen and tasted. Here, the legacy of those long-forgotten recipes lives on as a concrete reminder of faith, craft, and human resilience. As you trace your fingers along a cool, carved wall, you feel the reverberations of ancient kitchens, each groove a syllable of a sacred recipe, every dent a muted signature left by hands that once stirred, diced, and savored the divine mixture of warmth and ritual love. You are both the observer and the inheritor of these lasting echoes, a participant in a story that spans centuries. In this reflective space, the past is not a faded memory confined to fragile manuscripts, but a living, breathing art form that has infiltrated the fabric of modern culinary creativity. You sense that each dish prepared in those austere convent kitchens carries an invisible weight, a heritage of wisdom woven with the threads of passion, discipline, and unexpected rebellion. A mainstream historical fact pulses within the narrative of these kitchens. Many convents in medieval France, often secluded from secular life, maintained exceptionally advanced culinary practices and herbaceous gardens that were integral to both their dietary sustenance and their medicinal remedies. These hidden culinary advancements serve as proof of an era when the line between ritual and gastronomy was as thin and delicate as the parchment on which ancient recipes were inscribed. As you wander deeper into the echoing halls, the light grows softer. You notice that the very ambiance, shadows gently dancing to the rhythm of distant, ghostly chants, and the hushed murmur of flickering candles, seems to stir the sensory memory of those who have been long silenced by time. The taste of a robust, herb-infused broth, or the whispered secret of a rare spice, lingers in the air like a promise. It is as if the flavors themselves are still debating the best method of preservation, the proper balance of sweetness and spice, or the subtle interplay between fervor and rigor. Historians still argue whether the resilient flavors achieved by these resourceful culinary sisters were the intended outcome of an austere spiritual philosophy or rather an inadvertent byproduct of endless experimentation, a divergence that continues to spark debates in modern scholarly circles. A quirky and charming anecdote flutters into your mind, a fragment of lore that speaks of a time when a particularly eccentric nun, known for her clever wit, accidentally adulterated the measure of a precious herb used to make a signature sauce. Instead of triggering disaster, her unintended abundance created a flavor so vibrant and uplifting that it became the secret ingredient for a celebratory dish, uniting the community with bursts of laughter and astonished admiration. This happy accident, forever preserved in the collective memory of the convent, is a testament to the idea that even in the most regimented traditions, serendipity has its rightful place. The recollection serves as a gentle reminder that subtle imperfections often beget beauty, a theme that resonates deeply with you as you contemplate the lasting impact of each recipe. In this quiet chamber of remembrance, the relics of ancient kitchens persist, not merely in the tangible marks of cut stone and time-worn utensils, but in the intangible poetry of every well-loved flavor. You come upon an old copper cauldron, its surface dulled by centuries of use, yet still emanating a faint aroma of exotic spices, as though it contains within its iron belly the very spirit of perseverance. Its slow, rhythmic babble, as it simmers on an unseen fire, becomes a lullaby, inviting you to meditate on the resilience of the human spirit, a spirit that, even when chained by austerity and bound to devotional life, found a way to channel creativity through recipes that echo with soft, rebellious joy. Your journey through these halls of lasting echoes invites you to not only savor the flavors, but to consider the very act of cooking as a profound dialogue between eras. The interplay of carefully measured ingredients, the muted laughter of clandestine culinary experiments, and the undeniable touch of divine inspiration have become a perpetual conversation between the past and present. In this dialogue, every dish tells a story of survival, innovation, and transformation. You realize that the long shadows and whispered aromas are the legacy of an age when food became a vessel for personal expression, a canvas that bore the marks of both tradition and the irrepressible human desire to experiment beyond the prescribed norms. As you pass through a narrow archway, you note a mosaic of tiny, intricately arranged tiles along the floor. Each tile depicts elements of the ancient recipes: herb bundles, tiny mortar and pestles, delicate scrolls with recipes etched in fading ink. The mosaic serves as a vibrant reminder that these echoes are not lost, but are intricately interwoven with the art of everyday life. The symbolic imagery, a delicate interplay of sacred geometry and culinary elements, portrays a legacy that transcends time, linking the spiritual devotion of the past with the creative passions of the present. You feel that every tile, every subdued color, and every fraction of light catching on a weathered surface is a physical manifestation of the stories that have been passed down through generations. In this place, the spirit of the past speaks softly to you, urging you to honor its memory by carrying forward the principles of humility, innovation, and joy. The taste of a carefully rendered sauce or the aroma of a well-balanced stew is more than sensory pleasure. It is a sacred communion, a meditation on life itself. You can almost hear the soft cadence of prayer intermingling with the murmur of murmured recipes, each one a tender demonstration of resilience and love. It is in that gentle harmony where the timeless essence of forgotten convent kitchens is most profoundly felt, a robust reminder that every meal that nourishes the body also tends to the soul. With each step you take, you collect these echoes as precious relics, treasuring the tender balance between reverence and irreverence, mortality and immortality. You find solace in the continuity of these culinary memories, their lasting echoes reverberating in the quiet corners of your mind like a cherished melody. The warm, lingering taste of a legendary spice, the soft echo of a secret laugh, and the persistent memory of earnest culinary innovations all converge into a single, unified experience that speaks openly to your heart. In that transcendent moment, you understand that the legacy of these medieval convent kitchens is not confined to musty scrolls or the dim glow of candlelight. It is alive in every dish prepared with care, every ingredient chosen with thought, and every flavor that dares to challenge the ordinary. These enduring echoes remind you that history, much like a particularly daring recipe, is best savored when experienced in its full, unbridled authenticity, an art form that is forever intricate, irreverent, and undeniably beautiful. You step into a quiet, reflective space where recipes evolve like whispered secrets traveling through time. The subtle shifts in technique and taste unfurl before you with the precision of a well-rehearsed ritual. In this tranquil corridor, every detail feels laden with meaning, each slight adjustment in a spice ratio, every nuanced tip of a blade, each gentle shift in the method of stirring a simmering pot resonates with centuries of silent, transformational change. You sense that on these cool, stone walls, and weathered wooden surfaces. The cumulative art of culinary evolution has been etched like a poem written in the language of flavor. The air here is soft, laden with the muted memories of countless experiments, where the bold strokes of creation gradually meld into more subtle revisions, each adjustment a quiet act of defiance against the inertia of tradition. As you wander through this space, the ambient hum of a long-forgotten hearth stirs memories of turbulent epochs when recipes were not merely prepared but were transformed under the weight of necessity and the hope for a better tomorrow. A mainstream historical fact whispers through your consciousness. Medieval kitchens, particularly those within the sacred walls of convents, were as much laboratories for culinary innovation as they were spaces for spiritual reflection. In these auber yet inspired settings, every kernel, every herb was given to the transformative magic of both careful discipline and unplanned whimsy. You find yourself admiring how a simple stew evolves over time, a careful reduction of simmered fruits and spices that gradually turns into a bold, assertive sauce, layered with complexity and softness alike. Your eyes catch the gleam of a well-worn ladle in a modest copper cauldron, its surface etched with the faint memories of repeated stirring and secret adjustments. You pause, almost reverently, as you imagine the hands that once used it to coax out a richer flavor by adding just a pinch more of a rare spice, a spice that has since faded into myth. A quirky tidbit flutter more vividly in your mind. It is said that one particularly spirited novice, in an act of quiet rebellion, once doubled the measure of a pungent herb during a routine preparation. Instead of scandal or reproach, her daring miscalculation yielded a delightful burst of unexpected zest that left the congregation in a fit of joyful incredulity, turning the dish into an enduring, albeit accidental, masterpiece. Such playful moments of transformation remind you that evolution in these kitchens is never rigid but always laced with the sweetness of human mischief. The gentle lighting casts soft shadows along the stone floor, and you notice how the utensils themselves seem to have stories to tell. A well-worn spatula and a mortar whose sides bear tiny scratches, as if recording every experiment and every transformation with subtle gratitude. The interplay between old habits and the impulses for change fills you with an odd, tender hope that within even the strictest of traditions there is room for revolutionary change, a fraction of a moment where the spirit of improvisation flares softly enough to alter an age-old recipe. You sense that the evolution of taste here is akin to a slow dance, a measured, graceful progression where each step improves upon the previous, building on both triumph and quiet, humorous failure. Historians still argue whether such gradual transformations were deliberate imitations of nature's inexorable march or merely the emergent result of accidental discoveries. The debate, like a secret simmering beneath the surface, only adds to the allure of these culinary metamorphoses. Moving deeper, you pass by a counter where a series of aged utensils and parchment notes lie in near-hallowed disarray, each mark, each faded line recounting a tale of adaptation. A delicate brushstroke of a handwritten note catches your eye. A recipe that once demanded the strict measurement of an herb now simply invites at a taste adjustment. The irony isn't lost on you. This small concession to human instinct over rigorous formality is a silent ode to the beauty of adaptable creativity. Here, the evolution of a dish is less a rigid formula and more a poetic interplay between structure and serendipity. You lean in closer, almost to the point of joining the silent conversation of those long-ago chefs, each one excitedly debating the merits of a slight deviation, whether it was the introduction of a new technique or the subtle refinement of an existing method. A familiar, subdued laughter seems to echo faintly among the walls, as if the kitchens themselves are fondly recalling days when a clumsy tumble of a spice jar or an over-enthusiastic dash of an ingredient would spark a chorus of playful teasing. The humble environment reverberates with the spirit of those light-hearted moments that, in retrospect, contributed as much to the evolution of recipes as the more solemn, meticulously recorded experiments. You remember another quirky tidbit in this evolving narrative, a softly spoken legend of a nun whose notorious fondness for cinnamon led to the creation of a sauce that was judged by both her peers and later connoisseurs to have been revolutionary in its complexity. Her unintended innovation became a cherished variant of an otherwise standard stew, binding the threads of culinary technique with the sprightly pulse of human error turned art. The textures around you, from the rough-hewn wooden benches to the soft, enduring glow of ancient lamps, seem to mirror the very evolution you observe, a continuum where the practical merges seamlessly with the aesthetic. Every time an ingredient is added, the act is not mere repetition, but a deliberate, creative interjection, a transformation that may forever alter what might be described as a fixed recipe. These quiet shifts, as delicate as the rustle of a parchment page in a silent breeze, remind you that recipes, much like art and even life, are never static illusions. They are living, breathing chronicles of change fashioned by patience, experimentation, and even a pinch of irreverence. A subtle debate lingers at the corners of your mind. Could such quiet transformations, these iterative improvements of taste and technique, be seen as early studies in what later became modern gastronomy? Historians still argue whether these incremental shifts were the planned evolution of culinary tradition or spontaneous innovations made possible by the unpredictable nature of human passion, a debate as intricate and layered as the flavors themselves. In this moment, you recognize that each quiet transformation is a paean to the inexorable forward march of creativity, an ongoing dialogue between the rigid rules of technique and the soft tenderness of experimental daring. As you leave this corridor of evolving applications, you carry with you a sense of marvel at the resilience, adaptability, and innovative spirit that permeates even the most ritualistic kitchens. Each subtle change you witnessed, a gentle ladle sweep, a whispered adjustment in a recipe note, the delicate interplay of flavor swatches on a well-used counter, reveals that time, hardship, and the whimsy of human error have all converged to forge a tapestry of resilience and grace. You become aware that these quiet transformations not only mirror the evolution of culinary practices, but also reflect a broader, more profound truth, that the pursuit of excellence often begins with embracing the smallest change, a new dash of spice, a subtle rethinking of an ancient recipe, a recalibration of tradition that, like a soft breath, propels humanity ever onward. In that gentle, reflective light, you pause and smile, grateful for the tender complexity of these transformations. Every nuance of flavor, every whispered note of innovation, represents a quiet revolution, a testament to the unyielding power of creativity when it meets the enduring legacy of the past. And as you continue on your journey, the memory of that unspoken dialogue between tradition and change lingers, a soft call to embrace both the old and the new with equal reverence and joyful abandon. You now stand at the threshold of timeless farewell, where the soft echoes of forgotten convent kitchens settle in a sacred, quiet embrace. In this final chamber of your journey, every morsel and every whisper of spice seems to carry an enigmatic blend of memory and myth. The aged stone around you bears silent testimony to centuries of culinary devotion, each crevice and gentle patina a muted saga of resilience, daring creativity, and a boundless hunger for transcending the ordinary. As you wander slowly along the cool corridor, the shadows cast by flickering lanterns revive the spectral presence of culinary artisans, whose mindful hands once stirred simmering cauldrons and measured ingredients with solemn precision. You feel their presence in every breath, the timeless dance of herbs and spices, the soft murmur of ancient recipes murmuring secrets of nourishment and transcendence. In this reflective space, the legacy of those long-gone kitchens becomes palpable. A bronze cauldron set upon a rough-hewn shelf seems imbued with the accumulated warmth of liturgical chants and clandestine exchanges of culinary wit. You lean in and almost taste the vapor, rising in gentle spirals, a fragrance that recalls both austerity and unexpected levity, a whisper of history where every carefully preserved condiment and every meticulously recorded recipe carried witness to a delicate interplay between survival and art. You recall that medieval culinary treatises extolled the virtues of balancing simplicity with bold innovation, and you note with quiet satisfaction that even the humblest stewed root or the faintest dusting of a rare spice achieved the exalted status of both ritual and rebellion. Every step along the warm corridor feels like a step into an unbroken lineage, a meditative pilgrimage, where you are both pilgrim and keeper of these elusive culinary memories. You see beneath a cracked, faded fresco a depiction of a nun, her eyes twinkling with mischievous wisdom, as she adds one extra pinch of cinnamon to a fragrant sauce, a quirky entry in an otherwise strict compendium of recipes. Historians still argue whether that audacious flourish was an emblem of secret indulgence, or nothing more than a serendipitous error that was later celebrated as a hallmark of creative expression. The debate lingers like incense in the air, a gentle reminder that even the most systematized traditions possess room for moments of beautiful unpredictability. Your footsteps slow, and as you round a final archway, the ambiance shifts into something that feels almost beyond time, a soft, echoing hum of gratitude, forged by countless generations who found solace, joy, and a spark of irreverence in the act of preparing food. Every shadow in the dim light seems to waver with the soft cadence of whispered prayers and the quiet laughter of those ingenious souls who dare to defy convention with a well-measured dab of spice. You sense that this is not an end but a gentle invitation to carry these memories forward into your own creative endeavors, an homage to the dual nature of tradition and innovation, of piety and playful rebellion. In this quiet sanctum of farewell, the relics of culinary masterpieces and forgotten secrets unite, each ingredient a note in an ever-resonant symphony of taste and time. You feel the tender pulse of centuries in the lingering warmth of a slow-cooked stew, and in the lingering aroma of a rare herb that once graced a dimly lit monastery kitchen. Every element, from the gravity of purpose in a modest mortar to the exquisite delicacy of a clandestinely added spice, declares that these kitchens were not merely workspaces, but living, breathing galleries of relentless human endeavor. Then in a smile, you recognize that the legacy left behind is not confined to the dusty old pages of ancient manuscripts. It pulses vibrantly in every thoughtfully prepared dish, each one an embodiment of a motto that marries the solemn with the irreverent. Perfection, after all, is occasionally best achieved with a touch of joyful mischief. And now, as you stand at this quiet juncture, you feel time soften, each heartbeat in rhythm, with the age-old songs of culinary innovation. The whispers of legend and myth converge in a final harmonious cadence, signaling that though your journey through these hallowed kitchens may conclude, the flavors, memories, and enduring spirit of those bygone days will live on within you, urging you always to experiment, to celebrate, and to savor the eternal dance between reverence and a spark of irreverence. Word count 170. Wind down 300 words. As the night deepens, you let the gentle murmur of the past ebb into a soothing silence. Slowly, your mind softens, settling into a quiet contemplation of the journey you have just traversed. You recall every tang of spice, every lingering note of herbaceous aroma, and every secret shared in hushed tones by the flickering candlelight. The memories of those ancient kitchens, with their resilient whispers of time and tradition, now cocoon you in a warm, reflective embrace. In this moment, the world seems to slow down. The relentless cadence of daily life fades away to reveal a serene landscape of quiet wonder, each thought a delicate echo of timeless culinary magic. The gentle sound of your breath creates a soft rhythm that syncs with the faint whispers of history, inviting you to surrender to a state of calm. Your mind, at ease, drifts through the corridors of memory, where every morsel holds a message of creativity and gentle rebellion. You feel the weight of the past dissolve into inspiration, a gentle reminder that every act of creation, no matter how small, is a tribute to the living spirit of ingenuity. The light dims tenderly around you, mirroring the fading echoes of old, sacred recipes as they meld into the blissful quietude of the night. Let this peaceful moment wrap around you, filling you with a profound sense of gratitude for the beauty that lies in both tradition and spontaneous delight. Here, in this tender interlude, you embrace the calm, a fourth promise whispered on the wind, assuring you that all is well, that creativity and remembrance will continue to light your path, now and forever.